All right, welcome back. This is the last week of the quarter, so it's over. Um, Great quarter ending, great week. Uh, yeah, so I gotta upload the quarter video and then we have the overall final video. So this week, as you can see, really Monday, Tuesday, good gains, and then Wednesday, really big jump, so that was great. And then Thursday, slight increase, good. And then Friday was kind of just an annoying end of the day, but I mean, overall, great week. Here, the dollars, I mean, the compounding has helped. So it's around, there's, I think, like 1% extra on compounding or something like that. That's been in effect. But the compounding is more on the long term scale. That's where we see it mostly. It's around 20% there. Right. Okay. So comparison from last week. Last week was a good week. I think it was around 2.22%, so that was a good week. Here on Monday, Tuesday, we were already hitting those numbers, and then Wednesday, big jump. Thursday, good, and then Friday, we had a negative 4% downfall in that, so not good. But I mean, overall, it's fine. Over here, you got Nasdaq. So Nasdaq did really well this week. Kept on increasing as it always does. And then over here, we also did increase pretty well. We would have outperformed every single day if it wasn't for Friday. So that would have been a really good week to end off, but it's fine. And over here, we have 12.35%. So Nasdaq did 3.7%. Overall, we finally passed the 60% mark for days on Nasdaq, so that's impressive. Almost at 61, so really good. And then over here we got 21.7, and then Nasdaq's at 8.4. So I mean, we're basically what, like, 13% outperforming, right? So if you just subtract it, if you don't do like the percentage formula, it's around 13%. Um, so you know, that's a really good mark from Nasdaq. If you take off the one day we had on Wednesday, which is around 9%, we would be what's up? Yeah, 13 just minus 9, so 4% outperforming, which is still very good for now for a 60/40 portfolio. 4% outperforming, that's quite strong from Nasdaq, right? So Nasdaq is the highest one here. SPY, did increase this week, 2.5%, so strong week for SPY. Um, Same thing, 80%. And then overall, we're actually almost at 63. So this is our highest one. And then, here we are outperformed by a greater margin than NASDAQ, so 6.85%. So it would be around, 6% outperforming SPY if it wasn't for Wednesday. That's quite strong. I mean, that would have been, it still would have been a great quarter without Wednesday. So, I mean, yeah. And just trying to prove here that Wednesday just wasn't a 1 day event where all the gains happened on that 1 day. Most gains happen on that 1 day, but we'd still have a great quarter without Wednesday. Just my point. Over here we got Dow. So Dow is quite weak, 1.4%. So a good week for Dow, but overall it's quite bad, 3.8%. And we actually did pass the 60% mark for Dow, so that's great. Over here you got everything, so that's kind of what I mean here. We have all the indices, Nasdaq, SPY, Dow. Okay, so overall, we actually had a huge increase in our daily percent gain, so insane. 0. 0.5, really, really good. Our goal is 0.17, so I mean, it's incredible. We were at 0.22 last week, so last week we were already beating it, so that's great. And then right now we doubled that, more than doubled. Over here you got each day, so that's what I mean. So Monday, Tuesday, great, and then Wednesday we had a great day. Wednesday was a lot of gains on that day because I had started some shorts in the morning. I closed them neutral, and then I left half of them for the after hours, which is for an earnings report. That was only I left 50% of my original position, so that was 20% of the portfolio. So my idea was that, like, if it doesn't go my way, then the gains from Monday, Tuesday will be gone. But we'll still most likely end up outperforming SPY because from last week we were already outperforming SPY by around 1 or 2%, I think. So I wasn't really too worried, and I'd still have Thursday, Friday to do something. So it was fine, and then it did go my way. I was quite confident to go my way, but I still, half my position by 50%, so from 40 to 20. I mean, if I would have kept the 40, it would have been a huge increase, almost 18%, which would be a huge outlier in the data. But But I mean, it's still really good. Thursday we kept on outperforming easy, and then Friday was quite annoying because I was planning on the market going up that day, and then I started a long position. Um, I start a long position on a certain company, and it normally recovers quite well. That's what I've been doing the last couple of weeks, getting my gains from that. But it didn't really go today on Friday that well, so that day kind of just did nothing, and I lost quite a bit on that, so it was fine. But I mean, if you overall look at each day that I've gained from it, the gains are positive on it, so that's fine. But I mean, it was just a bit annoying to have that -4% day at the final day of the week. I closed all the positions, so end of the quarter, it's all closed. I still have 2-3 weeks until the next quarter starts, probably two, and then start on the third. So during those 2 weeks, I'll still be uploading, a weekly video because I'm still keeping track on like my personal account and stuff. I'm adding those trades onto the overall since inception type thing. So that data is going into there, and then the next quarter will start towards the end of August, and then end of September, which will be in the middle of Q1 for this year, is going to be a 1 year since I started. So we can look at. I might do a special video from all the data, recounting all the trades. Every single day basically is kept track of and all that, and I'll do that. So I'll probably do that then. I'll see. Our green days are 65%, so that's good. 65%. Our losses and gains are almost the same on green and red. So, we have that 15% edge over the 50, and that's where most of the gains come from. So, you don't have to be, you can be 50-50 on your greens and red, but if you're earning a lot more on your profitable days, right, then you're fine. So right now we're at 65%, and our gains and losses are basically the same, so 15% edge on that. Over here, profitable trades, so it actually did increase a lot. I did do a lot more trades this week though. I did, yeah, there were quite a bit. So that's why also you'll see later that the transactions did increase by a bit. But I mean, it's still each day, Monday, Tuesday, start a trade, close the trade. Tuesday, start a trade, close the trade. And then Wednesday, kind of left that thing open, closed it too, 50-50 on that. And then Friday also started trade, closed the trade. So each day I was doing something. It was a busy week. Over here you can see each thing. So we actually increased our gains by a lot. However, our losses also increased, not by as much as our gains increasing, but our losses did, or no, decrease. But I mean, they're almost the same. Standard deviation did increase by quite a bit. That was mostly due to the 1 day. So if you imagined it having 18% on that 1 day, then this would also be a lot higher. And also if I would have, risked that, probably all the gains from the quarter would have been gone, and it would be around zero. So that would have been the smartest. It would have not been the smartest decision. Over here, you can see mean day gain and loss. So I mean, the SPY did increase its gains and also slightly increased its losses. Standard deviation also slightly increased. And then the ratios, I mean, they are better from last week, which is good, but the difference is actually a bit worse. Our losses either decrease our losses or increase our gains. But I mean, as this is the last quarter and the last week, this is kind of doesn't really matter. But you can see how far we were. We had to increase by quite a bit or decrease by quite a bit, around 0.4 on each. So interesting. Over here, you can see last week we basically have the same difference, and the standard deviation is higher this week. So it's okay. And then transaction, you can see almost increasing to 0.9 a day. So that's almost one transaction a day, one buy or one sell. So, it's kind of in line with the overall. The overall was 1.55, so it's decreasing it, but overall it's around the one number. The day trade number also doubled. This is kind of what I meant by each day I was doing something. So that number increased by a lot. This basically just means that only 1 of the 5 days in a week I'd probably do a day trade. So it's quite low. It's, not that high. Current beta, the beta did increase by a lot. 0.3. So that was mostly due on Wednesday and then also some other days, Monday, Tuesday. but our alpha more than doubled, so that's great. So I mean, we did have higher beta 0.5. That's basically that's like half correlation to SPY. Nothing crazy, and it's not 2 or 3 or like triple SPY or whatever. But we still have a good beta alpha. 0.18 is great. I know last quarter was a lot really high because of the 50% gain last quarter, but I think, yeah, and then the second quarter, it was almost neutral. We did have positive, it was like 0.01. Um, and then on the first quarter, I didn't really calculate it then, but I think if you would have calculated it, it would have been, we did outperform SPY, and we were quite correlated, so there must have been, I remember there was positive alpha, but it wasn't anything crazy. So I think this is our second best quarter for alpha. So great quarter overall. We're passing the 100% alpha level, so we're actually at 1 point, I think, 01. So that's really good. This is beta over here. So this last slide, 21.68. So insane increase, more than 12.3%. My bad, 13.3%. So incredible. Really great way to leave this quarter. We were outperforming last week, which is great. We had multiple times in which we were outperforming this quarter. So I mean, and then it kind of went back down, then went back up. So still pretty good, and it's kind of where like these 1 week, 2 week intervals where a lot of action happens. You don't really know when that's gonna happen, but there's sometimes when we have to just wait the long game and wait until those weeks happen, and then that's where part of your in this case around more than half of our outperforming came from. So if you take out the 9% day, as I said, you'd be what around you'd be what yeah so 12%, so around 12%. SPY's what 6, so you'd still be outperforming by 6%, which is very impressive. Right now we doubled that almost, so incredible quarter overall. This kind of week was just like cherry on top to finish it all off. Yeah, I'm gonna still continue to do some weekly videos. I gotta upload the quarterly video, and then the since inception video, which is like everything, and then I gotta upload the report video, which is gonna be very interesting. So look out for that. And yeah, see you.